Hello, welcome to my channel. This is my first commentary video, so please don't flame me. Does this sound familiar? A girl that is just like you turns pretty in high school, and we learn about her and her crushes, her many crushes. You could even say that she's loved them before. Then she ends up with her crush in the first movie, and then in the second movie they introduce a dream guy, and this dream guy serves as a test for the first love interest to see if their love really is as strong as it should be, or that they can really stand the test of time together. Now I want you to think about if that dream guy is a minority. Does this sound familiar? Because literally a bunch of rom-coms fall into this category. And I think it happens so often, and it tends to become a trope in and of itself. That can be a mark of a bad story structure, bad character development, and honestly just poor writing. Also, when I put kinda in the title, I don't mean that as like me soft criticizing these people and being like, well, you're a little racist, but it's okay. I just put kinda as in like, I think it is racist. I think it's more of an implicit bias. That's why I said it. Hello, I'm Ireland. I'm gonna be talking about what I want to. Also, spoilers for Never Have I Ever, The Summer I Turned Pretty, To All the Boys I Love Before, and if you haven't watched The Fault in Our Stars, what are you doing here? Go watch it. In Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Clementine, who's the love interest, says, "Too many guys think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive." And I think this quote kind of represents what I'm trying to get at with the manic pixie dream boy. I feel like a lot of people know about the manic pixie dream girl, but there is a counter example. The sequel questions the relationship of another more attractive guy who is absolutely perfect without flaws. And if he does have flaws, it is only in relation to her true love boyfriend. And this shows that white guys get chosen over people of color over and over again. We compare John Ambrose's flaws or lack of them to Peter because they're in competition with one another. I call this the perfect boyfriend sequel syndrome, or just Twilight, the Twilight syndrome, or the Twilight phenomenon. Usually the main character doesn't fall for this perfect boyfriend, and it leads to the solidifying of their love for one another, original significant other. So, what is a manic pixie dream boy? What's a manic pixie dream boy? What is a manic pixie dream boy? Where can I find him? What does he look like? Similar to the prolific manic pixie dream girl, the manic pixie dream boy is an attractive, quirky, and misunderstood guy who is determined to make the character's life magical. Basically, they're supposed to teach and transform a young woman's life. The manic pixie dream boy, or the manic pixie dream guy, is found in Augustus Waters from the film The Fault in Our Stars. In a 2014 Vulture article stated, "He's a bad boy. He's a sweetheart. He's a dumb jock. He's a nerd. He's a philosopher. He's a poet. He's a victim. He's a survivor. He's everything everyone wants in their lives. And he's a fallacious notion of what we can actually have in our lives." His whole purpose is really to live in comparison to Hazel Grace. So his perfection comes from him trying to derive meaning from his life and overanalyzing everything in his desire to live with purpose. So that's with all the metaphors and the poets and everything. To me, he just serves as a narrative device to be a foil to Hazel Grace. However, none of this removes the characterization of Augustus Waters as a manic pixie dream boy. He still is. He definitely is. He's the blueprint. He's also just not dynamic or layered. We don't really know much about his backstory in the book or in the movie. In the movie, does he even have parents? I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. And this is a core tenet of the manic pixie dream boy. At the heart of the manic pixie dream person trope, it is the idea that the people in our life are not human, and exists to make our life important in some way. This is important because people don't exist in our life just to make our problems disappear. Healthy relationships share their lives with each other. I wouldn't say that the manic pixie dream guy trope is as harmful as the manic pixie dream girl trope, because the manic pixie dream girl trope reinforces the patriarchy, while the manic pixie dream boy trope allows for less toxic masculinity in that open communication. Usually the manic pixie dream boy is super supportive of the main character's wants and goals and aspirations as a person. However, it does completely disregard the manic pixie dream boy as a person, because they are a dream and not somebody that's real. John Ambrose McLaren is a character from the second movie, Up to All the Boys I Loved Before, and the book. And he's in the book. He's in the book. He likes reading. He doesn't mind being alone. Has a lot of friends. He's smart, very good at Model UN. But this isn't in the movie. They briefly mention it, and then, he's back to wanting Laura Jean. Like, he doesn't have hobbies or anything. He's just a guy who works at an old folks home. I don't know, man. Because he ultimately helps move Laura Jean and Peter Kavinsky's relationship forward. He's a nerd, a piano player, a guy who was bullied, a sweetheart. But at the end of the day, in the writer's head, he's just Laura Jean's crush from 6th grade, making the audience wonder, who will Laura Jean get with? And how mad should I be? Instead of maybe developing, I don't know, something interesting about Laura Jean that the audience doesn't know that could move into the conflict of the third movie, they just have this go on and on like it's Twilight, and like anybody cares. Sorry, I do care about John Ambrose McLaren. I just do not care to have to sit through the same story structure of the rom-com. The manic pixie dream boy is often used as a therapist and will sacrifice or cease to have goals in order for the main character to progress. Side note, I realize Peter is arguably more of a manic pixie dream boy than John Ambrose. I mentioned John Ambrose mostly because of his race, and that's kind of the point of this whole thing. I do see Peter. I see you, Peter. Peter. But also, the manic pixie dream boy often goes away. Like, they sneak out in the middle of the night after they're done being used as a narrative device. And Peter doesn't really leave, but he does sacrifice his goals and ambitions for the main character, and we don't really know much about him except that he went through a divorce and he's kind of just there, but that's why we're not talking about Peter. In another Jenny Han series, The Summer I Turned Pretty, the character Cam Cameron, I love you, an aspiring marine biologist, goes out with Belly, who is the main character. It is pretty clear she's in love with Conrad, and so she breaks up with him, and that's pretty much it. I feel like it was only a few episodes that they went out together, but we don't know much about, him as a person, and they didn't really get to spend much time together. It was kind of almost like she was trying to make Conrad jealous. There was too many love interests, You can squish them down and package them up and make them all nice and neat, and make them real people who have thoughts and emotions and don't have to be perfect. Then the worst one of these, in my opinion, Never Have I Ever. It has been so clear from the beginning that she was gonna fall in love with Ben. The writers, the editors, it's been so clear. She was gonna fall in love with Ben from the beginning. Ben is Davy, the main character's nemesis, who turns into, it's like an enemies to lovers kind of thing, right? But they start up new relationships all throughout these seasons and don't make me learn anything about her. Up until, season 4, where they obviously knew where this was going. But because they had to end it. Any of these guys had any depth to them and weren't just surface level people. And I wish that their relationships expanded the knowledge about Davy's growth as a person. Because to me, the whole her dancing, the Indian dance, and having embracing her culture was completely out of left field. There was no build up to that. It felt like her character development was strange. She was obsessed with Paxton Hall Yoshida for the longest time, and I don't blame her for that. But what I do blame the writers for is I have no problem with Des being a mom's boy. I just wish the relationship didn't last 3 seconds. I wish there were signs leading up to their breakup. Maybe he's always getting texts from his mom. Or maybe it was just a season-long thing. But they just had to end it with her going into Ben's room. And I also felt like it was a lazy way to end a relationship, by just suddenly being like, oh, this thing happened, so I guess they break up. And I hate how shallow these guys have to be in order for the writers to write relationships about them. They could have made Des an actual love interest and played it off more seriously and have Devi learn something. And they do this again with another character called Ethan, and his last name is Morales. Another season-long boyfriend who she breaks up with and doesn't learn anything. Shouldn't date a thief because he'll steal my heart, it was longer than the 5 seconds she dated Des, but it just felt so weird. And all of the love interests that are non-white always had issues. It's totally okay for her to end up with Ben. The only out of all of the 4 love interests she's had throughout the show. That's not what I'm upset. I'm upset that they don't get the same amount of depth as Paxton does. I really like how the last season showed that he had anxiety about college and returned to something that was safer for him and ultimately wanted to go back. And showed that he had different emotions and was more complex about it and was trying to put up a front in front of everybody because that's what made him feel better. I thought that was really cool and interesting, but no other characters get really that depth unless they're main characters. Your side characters matter, man. Your side characters matter. And the way you represent them matters as well. Jenny Han wrote, I wanted to write a story where my character's identity as an Asian American was not the focal point of the show, where everything is about struggling with her identity. Usually you have to justify the point of having a person of color be the main character. I wanted to write a girl's coming of age and have it not be the whole point. I do think this idea can go too far, like Exo Kitty, where she has no relationship to her culture. She doesn't speak the language. She doesn't try to understand basic things about Korean culture. So I do think this idea can go too far, but it's not a bad idea to start off with. The issue I have is that instead of developing complex Asian, Latino, and African American male characters, their existence is just to serve as a test for a relationship. Diversity is not only just culture, but diversity and representation can be showing that people are human and that they can make mistakes, they can be good, they can be bad. And I think that's how we empathize with other people and get the audience to care about them. What I'm trying to get across is that develop your side characters who are people of color more effectively by giving them complexity and making them interesting. You can have really interesting and complex characters who are male and have them not be manic pixie dream boys. They can actually be real people. Okay, if you've watched The Great, how after season one you want to kill that man, but after season 2 you're like, maybe you got some mixed feelings, you're not sure how to act. I understand the Twilight formula. You want people to ship other people so that it makes the thing more popular. Like, which ship will win? Which ship will, will not? Which one do you like? Which one do I hate? But these shipping wars often hurt the media that they are trying to promote. For example, in Exo Kitty, I fully believe that the amount of ships that they had in that show was supposed to get people riled up and talking about which one was the best one and which one will they do in season 2. But it ended up just making everyone be like, this is way too many storylines. Basically just throwing ships at the wall and seeing which one stuck. And this is perfectly represented in the American Eagle ad that The Summer I Turned Pretty is doing for the new season. They have like Team Belly, Team Jeremiah, Team Conrad. Which boy will Belly be with next season? And personally, I will be watching the show, but lazy. And following the Twilight formula is really uninteresting when you've seen it happen like 25 times over. Jenny Han commented on the possibility of a John Ambrose McLaren spinoff, and she said, "All I can say is never say never," she says. That would be a good thing because you get to flesh out a character and make them more real as a result and more human to the majority of people, watching, who only see them for what they can be to like Laura Jean or whatever, or in a relationship. A lot of rom-coms are from the female perspective, but male perspective can be interesting as well. But don't make them into manic pixie dream boys. As much as I love them, I do love a manic pixie dream boy, but I just dislike it because it's so prolific and they're not real, which makes it more uninteresting. They need to be more than therapists for the main character. They need to serve as more than a mediocre plot device. Okay, I could only think of Netflix shows that I watched, so there's definitely more out there. Only did a few, so yeah. Think about it. Was someone I mentioned on here not a manic pixie dream boy? And if so, who was it? And why? Oh my god. Me when I talk. Me when I talk. If you ended up liking this video, give my channel a big subscribe. And watch some of my other videos because I need to make money. I need to make money. Bye, Ireland. Bye, Ireland.